today. When will you be receiving your next stimulus bill? And also, it is International Women's Day. So I, of course, have to wish myself an International Women's Day. We've got a lot coming up, and it starts right now. Yes. Welcome to the news and why it matters. Happy Monday. I am Sarah Gonzalez. We were just having a very heated debate on whether or not it should be women or women. Eric, July?
I don't know if it's Wimix or Wimixin.
Wimixin.
That's what it looks like. It looks like we're mixing. But
it does.
I don't know if that's how you properly. So it's like the they say it's Latinx.
Latinx, Latinx. I know. Yeah. It's Latinx. I like to say it like this. It's Latinx. Either way, we hate it. I can speak for Latin people. We hate it. It's thanks. I hate it. Also joined by Chad Prather.
And I love women.
Do you love Wimixin?
I don't think that's a thing, and I'm afraid to ask what it actually is. So I'm gonna say no. Okay,
that's a good choice. That's a good choice.
Based on my assumptions, I'm gonna say no because I'm thinking X don't mark that spot. You know what I'm saying?
All right, we've got headlines of the day to get into. So shall we? The Democrats have rejected efforts over the weekend to keep all of these pandemic-related stimulus checks out of the hands of one, imprisoned criminals, two, illegal immigrants. They said, no, that is a bridge too far. We know that your tax money, right, the hard-earned money that you are making is going to these bills, but we don't want to make sure that it is limited to just you. Okay, so prior to approving the $1.9 trillion stimulus package, which obviously was stuffed with a whole bunch of things completely unrelated to COVID, and I think if you do the math, you're actually paying more as a taxpayer than you are receiving if you are one of the few who is fortunate enough to receive a $1,400 check instead of working. So it's crazy how much pork they have included in this bill. But Republicans were very unsuccessful in leaning down this bill. It was approved in the Senate as well without a single support from a Republican senator. Amendments that were also rejected include one to allow construction of the Keystone XL pipeline to continue, another to provide more targeted pandemic relief, one to require in-person learning for education funding. So a lot of tries from the Republicans. None of those were accepted. Senator Ted Cruz tweeted out over the weekend, Democrats just voted against my amendment that would have prevented American taxpayer dollars from being handed out to illegal aliens in the form of $1,400 stimulus checks. Personally, I'm happy about his usage of illegal aliens, mostly because the woke community says that we are not allowed to say illegal aliens anymore because it's too offensive. So I can appreciate that. But anyway, so there were minor changes made within the bill that is now going back to the House. President Biden says that Americans can expect to receive their stimulus checks later this month after the House approves those changes. But here, as it stands, $1.9 trillion stimulus package for a measly $1,400, which was, again, supposed to be $2,000. Joe Biden told us specifically it was $2,000 checks. Now it's $1,400. Oh, and by the way, only if you qualify, because they've reduced those qualifiers to make sure that less and less people get it. You're just going to pay for it.
I don't qualify.
I don't qualify.
I'm happy that I don't qualify, but at the same time, I mean, the whole thing.
But you say that, but your business was deeply affected.
Yeah.
By the pandemic and them shutting down all of these industries.
I am non-essential as can be. So yeah, I was affected by that. Yeah. I didn't get any PPP. I didn't get, we kept on working right on through as much as we could, but it was very much hurt through that. But I don't know that Joe Biden's fulfilled a campaign promise yet. He's gone back on everything that he's done. This is no big surprise here. But $1.9 trillion, and we've talked about this already. I mean, last week's shows we were talking about just the insanity of where all that pork is going and the things they're funding internationally and just the ridiculous causes that are there. And I'm so sick of Washington, D.C. I'm so sick of politics at this point. It's ridiculous, Eric.
Yeah. I mean, see, my issue, I guess, with this, the biggest issue is at 1.9 trillion. And I'm sitting there trying to explain to Americans that money ain't there, okay? And I think it's very serious that people understand this, because everybody's so short-sighted when it comes to this issue of spending that has been creating this bubble that at some point is going to burst, and it's going to impact everybody's lives in a very negative way. But the $1.9 trillion is not there. People need to understand that this is money that they're going to steal some of it from you, but they're also stealing from it from future generations because they have to monetize their debt. The money simply is not there. And I kept saying, looking at 1.9, how easy it is for people to just say, yeah, just give me the money. And this is why so many folks were, I can call them bums, I don't know what else to call them, were so much advocates of like lockdowns. Because, you promised them something, right? Shut down everything. You promised them something. You can get, if somebody thinks, no matter what the economic consequences are, if they think they can get something for nothing, they're going to take that every single time they can get it. But we keep being so short. This includes Republicans being so short-sighted on this issue of spending money that is, and of course, is not theirs, but it's also not there. On top of it, not even getting it to the individuals that they're stealing from, be it you or your kids or your kids. You're not even seeing most of that money. And this is why I said, once this does, America end up popping this bubble, you're going to wish you had a couple of different things, and precious metals, particularly Bitcoin or whatever crypto it is that you're into, the multitudes of the ones that are maybe out there that you feel are worth something, or land, because at some point in time, those are going to become so much more valuable than that dollar, because they're continuing to devalue it by their reckless spending, or rather printing money out of thin air, and the inflationary spending it is that they're doing. This is a problem, and it just sucks to see this continue to develop, and nobody even addresses, $1.9 trillion, what's the big deal? Like, dude, that's a lot of money, and it's money that you don't got.
Yeah, that is crazy, and it's a good point to bring up, Eric, is that I think that we have gotten so used to the government throwing out these numbers that you hear 1.9 trillion and people are just like, oh, sure. Yeah,
like didn't do that.
The rich will pay for it. And it's like, no, you don't, we don't have that money. And let me just tell you, it would only take a few times of the rich paying for it before they wouldn't be rich anymore, and you would have no one to pay for anything.
That's how socialism is always.
Right. So it's like Americans we've heard these numbers. The national debt is so high now, the deficit is so high. We've heard these numbers for so long that they've just become meaningless. It's just like my eyes just gloss over, oh, cool, another trillion.
I'm going to tweet that at the break, by the way. It's not theirs and it's not there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a good English lesson on the words there. It's not theirs and it's not there. I mean, that's a big number. People have no concept. None of us do. None of us have any concept.
Another interesting point, Eric, that you kind of alluded to here is that both sides are doing it. And I think that is an important point to point out. You know who else pointed it out? In a roundabout way, Representative Ilhan Omar, who on Friday was addressing CNN and talked about the fact that Americans received a greater amount of coronavirus stimulus actually under President Trump that they will now receive under President Biden. Watch.
I see it as a really disappointing development. We obviously are now ultimately sending money to less people than the Trump administration and the, Senate majority Republicans were willing to. There are going to be about 17 million people who will get less money. This is not the promise that we made. This is not where we are, given the opportunity to be in the majority in the Senate and have the White House. And so ultimately it is, a failure when we compromise ourselves out of delivering on behalf of the American people and keeping our promises.
So, I mean, just to be clear on what you're saying, that Trump wanted to deliver more in the way of checks for Americans than Biden.
Yeah, so the last checks that we were able to send had given 17 million more people than we will ultimately do with the caps now. And that, is going to be something that we're going to have to explain. And I don't know if many of us have a logical explanation on why we are delivering less than what the Republicans were willing to compromise us on delivering on behalf of the American people.
So an interesting yet sort of terrifying moment when Ilhan Omar is forced to admit that the Republicans, under President Trump, we actually gave out more money, which I don't find to be a good thing.
Neither.
It's terrifying to me. And, obviously I think that if you're concerned about spending, you should be concerned about it. But also, at the end of the day, we are shutting people's businesses down. So I'm all for just letting people live their lives and do their work, and maybe just don't shut them down, and then you won't have to pay any money. But I don't think that this is the awesome mic drop that maybe Republicans might think it is, that under President Trump, we gave more money out. It's great. I'm glad that we relieved Americans, but hello, is anyone concerned about spending anymore? Because I'm old enough to remember when the Republican Party was the party who was actually concerned about things like debt and deficit.
Hey, listen, I sat right here in this chair when they did it and said it was a dumb idea when they did it under the Trump administration. And it's a dumb idea. Like you say, it's the best stimulus package is let people open up and go back to work. Right. I mean, politicians disgust me at this stage in the game. They always do, but this is just next level crap, because they're at a point where they create the crisis, they ruin people's lives, and they come in there and want to pat themselves on the back like they're the hero that saved the day. Greg Abbott did it for Texas the other day. Everybody's wanting to pat him on the back, saying,
thank you, sir.
You should have never shut the state down.
Yep.
I mean, my gosh, that's the thing. You're putting people out of work, putting businesses out of work. And we've talked about this thing until we're just blue in the face over it. And they want to act like, I don't want a stimulus. I want a job. Yeah. I want to be able to go work in a free market economy and make as much freaking money as I can possibly make under the beautiful thing called capitalism.
Yeah. That's the best stimulus that we could have possibly got. And that's where the Republicans, to me, dropped the ball, is that guys like the Abbotts of the world were too flaky on it. Could you imagine if they had came out when this whole ordeal, and they didn't, unfortunately, started to pop off, and you saw a lot of these Democratic governors and folks wanting to shut down their spaces, they could have took a stance, an actual market stance, say, no, this is not what we need to do. We need to, if people want to take whatever protections or whatever it is, even if you advise them on it, but don't force them to do it, let it work itself out. And if you do have the greater ideas, you should prevail. We shouldn't have to steal from people. We shouldn't have to shut people down. None of that should happen. But unfortunately, that's not what happened. They jumped right in on it. And now they're trying to come out and say, well, I'm going to let you guys free on Wednesday. Look at me. Even though they were Texas legislators, speaking of Abbott, which I think that's more so why he did it, because it was more to be advantageous. They were about to go over his head. His own party was about to go over his head. So it's like he was just trying to get ahead of it. But not just with him, but other governors, other senators,
he also
House of Reps.
Maybe change that narrative from
Well,
Abbott,
especially when he got exactly 0% of the vote at CPAC about who could be the next president. Yeah. And Ron DeSantis is kind of kicking ass, and Texas isn't leading anything anymore. And the fact that he made the announcement from a Mexican restaurant on Texas Independence Day. This is problematic for me.
It's the little things, all right, that keep Chad awake at night.
It's true.
That's a fair point. All right, we've got more to come. First, we want to thank our sponsor really quickly, Built Bar. So if you have not tried Built Bar yet, let me just tell you, I live off of these things. I'm like the rest of you. I do. I'm like the rest of you. I'm a busy working mom. I don't have time to, make meals for myself because I'm busy feeding everyone else. And Built Bars have come in really handy for me because I got to go to the pantry and I want to get something and eat something that is delicious, but I also need to make sure that it's low calorie, low sugar, high protein. I do keto, so it's great for keto diets as well. So if you are looking for something to eat, something to snack on that is not going to build your waistline, let me tell you about Built Bar. Built Bar is covered in 100% chocolate. It tastes like a candy bar, but it's actually a protein bar. And they've got a bunch of different flavors. They have caramel brownie, they have peanut butter, they have mint brownie. And like I said, if you are a chocolate lover, you are going to love Built Bar. We have heard from so many of you out there. So many of you are sending me messages. You're like, oh my gosh, thank you for turning me on to Built Bar. Built Bar has made it into many of our podcast reviews because you guys are loving Built Bar so much. You got to go visit their website now. Pick out some flavors that you like. I promise you will love them. It is builtbar.com. Use promo code news20. You'll get 20% off of your next order. That is news20 for 20% off right now at Built Bar, BUILT bar.com. Back in a minute. All right, so breaking news this afternoon, Wyoming is set to end their lockdown measures, including their statewide mask mandate. So Governor Mark Gordon actually announced that the mask mandate would be lifted. Businesses such as restaurants, movie theaters, bars, and gyms would be allowed to open at full capacity on March 16th. And now he is still leaving some measures in place, including, God, this drives me nuts, you people, a mask mandate on all elementary through high schools.
What?
Yes. So, there's nothing that makes less sense than telling all of the adults who are actually more likely to not only catch COVID, but if we're looking at the statistics, the older adults are the ones who have problems with it. There is nothing that makes less sense than to tell the adults that they can take off their masks, but the elementary school through high school, the people who are not catching the virus, having difficulty with it. We've read multiple studies saying that they aren't transmitting it because they are not catching it and having trouble with it, and their viral load is not high enough to be able to transmit the disease to anyone because that's how freaking viruses work. So now the kids will still have that mask mandate. Thank God we're protecting everyone by making the kids mask up. But
in Wyoming, which is
Wyoming.
The definition of wide open spaces.
Right. This is rural.
All 30,000 people in Wyoming, thank you.
But we have seen, Chad, you mentioned Governor Abbott's decision to remove the mask mandate and allow businesses to open. We have seen kind of a domino effect of, since that happened, several other states have said, you know what, we're going to do the same thing. And unsurprisingly, I have also seen the CDC who came out. I just got a news update today on my phone that said this. The CDC says now fully vaccinated people can gather indoors. And it's like, well, you guys were just telling us 2 weeks ago that you still couldn't do that. You still had to wear a mask, even if you were vaccinated. Now, all of a sudden, they see that they are not able to maintain this narrative. They're not able to keep their grips on it, and that the states are going out and doing their own things anyway. And they're like, okay, all right, well, yeah, no, you can, that's fine. We give you permission to gather indoors. It's totally fine as long as you're fully vaccinated. It appears like maybe Americans are gonna, I don't know, actually be American and start saying enough is enough. Chad, what do you think?
Well, when enough, a lot, I think a lot. I'm trying to choose my words so they don't have to edit anything.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so if some real leaders would step up and lead and just really I think DeSantis has done fine. I think Kristi Noem's done fine. Abbott, happy that he did what he did. Too little, too late in my book. Should have never been done in the first place. Just let people go back to being free. I mean, I walked into a place yesterday, and this little prissy dude, he's like, with his, and I was like, I'm out, dude. I'm like, the guy started to freak out, right? And he's like, that's not normal behavior, Eric. I'm like, you have been so conditioned.
Yeah.
Like, what do you have that's that important to live for right now? I mean, come on.
Well, also, if you're that scared, stay the heck at home. Yes. You're welcome, edit also. Stay at home. I just don't understand how we have moved the narrative so far that now, I mean, that's how that is how society has operated for forever. Yeah. If you are nervous, you stay home. If you are sick, you will stay home. That's how we have done things for forever. And now all of a sudden,
millennia.
Like for all time ever like that. And this is why it was always bullcrap when they would sit here and say that, well, you may go out and, it's not about you assuming risk, because that was what I would always say. I was like, all right, let individuals go out there and assume whatever risk it is they want to assume, as they had been for forever. And then they would say, well, it's not about that. You may get someone sick. I said, well, that could have happened before.
Yes.
Right.
And it like
this is not the first virus where you can like
pass it, and maybe somebody might get sick even though you had no reaction. That has been happening forever. I talk about specifically like when kind of similar to what we talk about the COVID thing. Viral pneumonia, if it doesn't even have, you can't even use it has a vaccine. If it's not associated with influenza, it doesn't have anything. Mm-hmm. That person has to beat that viral pneumonia, and most of them do. A lot of them don't. A lot of older folk don't. Yet we accepted that as a reality. Yet for whatever reason, at some point in March, we started to say, well, no, now nobody can get sick, just because you might get potentially. We're gonna treat everybody like you're all sick.
Yes.
It's like, dude, we had ever have done that. The narrative doesn't even make sense, and it's falling apart. And that's why so many folks they don't want that domino effect. Because what's going to happen is they'll do whatever they can. If they can try to muddy up the numbers to try to dramatize it, well, look, Texas opened up and this hospital had some 90%, which they probably had that all the time.
That's how they make money.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
90% in ICU or something like that. They're gonna dramatize that. But when they see that the earth doesn't fall or the sky doesn't fall for that matter, that means that people will then have to look to them and say, wait a minute. For a year, we've been doing it your way, and you mean to tell us I've lost my job, I've lost my savings, I've lost all of this time, in particular for young people, I've lost all this time for nothing?
For nothing.
And that's what they don't want. They don't want the cat to get out the bag. This is why they wanted to try to draw out this vaccine crap to say, well, look, and they're probably still going to do that. If Texas or Mississippi or the other states, again, sky doesn't fall, and not everybody's dying on the streets or whatever, they're going to sit here and probably try to pull the vaccine card. Say, well, it was thanks to us. The vaccine was what stopped them. Like, dude, there's no proof of that. We see the states, or rather the countries that never had this, that you just didn't get the apocalypse that you promised us.
Right.
And they don't want the people to look back at them and say, even the people that support them, and say, so you were pulling our leg the entire time. That's what they don't want. So they're scrambling right now, because in the event that we free up and the world does not end, that looks bad on them, and that's it. And people might react in a certain kind of way, so they're gonna try to keep control of that narrative. But this is, too little, too late, like you said. Chad.
Well, let me just to add one to that narrative that they're trying to control. The CDC tweeted out, what was this, today? Yeah, today, this is CNN breaking news. The CDC releases guidelines giving limited freedoms to people fully vaccinated against COVID-19.
And I read that, by the way, just for perspective. And basically what it says is that if you are vaccinated, fully vaccinated, and they say if it's the Moderna and the Pfizer one, then it has to be 2 weeks after your second dose. Right. But the new Johnson & Johnson one, you can only get just one dose, and then but 2 weeks after that, then you are considered then a fully vaccinated person. Sounds so bizarre for me to talk about that. Well, and then you could go indoors with other vaccinated people. You can actually see unvaccinated people if they're from a single household. But then later on in that whole guideline, they say, you still should wear a mask, social distance, and do all that crap in public. I'm like, dude, what are we doing, man?
Yeah, life is risky.
Well, yes, and that's what I think that people have lost sight of.
Yeah.
Is that
none of us getting out alive?
Right.
Yeah,
well, no,
not
but
a single one of us.
If you are living your life, if you are going to the grocery store, you are assuming the risk involved in going to the grocery store.
You're probably more likely to die driving to the grocery store than you are from COVID.
Right.
For a lot of different demographics.
But whatever the case, like that's part of being in a free society, is when you enter the public sphere, you assume the risk associated with entering the public sphere. I'm just, thank you, CDC, for granting us limited freedoms. I appreciate it, because I recall that little asterisk in the Constitution that says you have all of these freedoms, God-given, rights, unless the CDC wants to limit them. So I'm just really glad that asterisk, actually finally, that clause.
Very few people read the Constitution's footnotes.
Very
few.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, we've got more to come. First, we want to thank our sponsor this segment, Raycon. So Raycon has been great for me because I have this baby that always cries. And this baby that always cries does not actually like lay down like normal babies for a nap. I have to hold him. And I am in constant need to listen to the news, to listen to podcasts, to make sure that I'm up to speed so I can give you the news and why it matters. So Raycon has been a lifesaver for me because my baby's crying and I'm like, no, I'm not going to listen to that. I'm going to listen to whatever the heck I want to in my wireless earbuds. So if you are needing to catch up on your favorite news podcasts, maybe you're binging an audiobook, or you have a workout that you are trying to power through, Raycons in your ears can make all the difference. Now, they are different from AirPods and a lot of their competitors. They don't have any dangling wires or stems. They go directly in your ear, and they come in a bunch of stylish colors, and it gives you a more discreet look, and they stay in there. They don't feel like they're about to fall out because you've got a bunch of weight hanging out of your ear. They're water and sweat resistant construction and Bluetooth that pairs very quickly and seamlessly. Very, very easy. They've got enough battery life for 6 hours of playtime. Okay, you can go to buyraycon.com/Y to get 15% off right now. All you have to do is go to buyraycon.com/Y. Again, 15% off. By the way, you're going to want to get an extra pair for your children because they're going to want to steal them because they're really awesome. So, pro tip, because I learned the hard way. Buyraycon.com/Y. Back in a minute. The Biden administration is reportedly allowing detention facilities for migrant children to open at 100%. As the border, the issues on the border continue to intensify. Now, this is, of course, after White House press secretary came out and insisted that they need to follow COVID guidelines. What, would you have us not follow COVID guidelines? Do you think that we should be spreading COVID to these innocent children in these, I'm sorry, I almost said cages. What I meant to say was containers. To these kids in containers, would you have us be doing that? No, obviously, we cannot do that. We have to be responsible and not spread COVID. Now, all of a sudden, mere weeks later, they are opening at 100% because apparently COVID was very, very dangerous and detrimental to children. Now it is not. They also are considering naming the facilities. They got to rename them. I can't. Reception centers. Okay, reception centers instead of the migrant detention centers. Yeah,
can you imagine?
Reception centers.
Can you imagine if they would have tried to rename that 12 months ago to something like that?
Can't.
Just the ish storm that would have
What, the concentration camps?
Yeah.
Are those what you're referring to?
That's exactly right. Let's make sure they're protected from COVID. We don't worry about human trafficking or anything.
Well, how about the migrants that we're releasing into our state, actually, knowing that they are COVID positive? Yeah. That's totally fine also.
Well, Greg Abbott says if Biden won't do it, he's going to do it. He's going to make sure that they stem the flow. We'll see
what happens
because it is problematic on a lot of levels.
I think the more important thing, definitely with the name change, is that they operate, Democrats have for a very long time operated on nothing but rhetoric. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, people listen to that and they only take that for face value. So if they said it, it either does or it doesn't exist, well, depending on who said it. And if it comes from them, it's different. And it doesn't matter if it's the same thing or worse in some cases when it comes to the shipping containers. It is what it is. But if you can rename it something, what was the
reception centers? I'm surprised it's not like they're not just renaming them welcome centers.
Welcome centers, yeah.
Reception centers.
Yes. And we're wondering, too, by the way, we're wondering why they are coming in record numbers. It's like, well, I mean, it's because you're giving them the impression that they're going to be able to get in. Mm-hmm. It's called a magnet, and I know they used to get a lot of flack for using the term magnet, but it's a freaking magnet.
Did you see the picture last week where they were the Biden T-shirts they were wearing?
Yes, please let us in. Yeah. Biden, Harris, please let us in.
I don't have a strong enough word for ignorant of how bad this whole thing is. And you're right. They control the rhetoric. You control everything. Language is everything.
Absolutely. 100%. It's always been everything. I mean, you can just tell them, like you can get away with so much bull crap definitely as a politician, just by simply saying something is not what it actually is. It's a lot of these guys gaslight, and that's their profession. It's just, hey, it doesn't matter what you see. Like, I can see it right now. We talked about this with the whole riots and everything over here at this table. We have our own Elijah Schaefer sitting there he's there physically, and we see the tape. And it's like it doesn't even matter. It's mostly peaceful. Everything is fine. Kumbaya.
Antifa is a myth.
Yeah, exactly. It goes to show that it's just strictly rhetoric, but it's a lot of stupid people that we're dealing with. So I keep telling y'all, democracy, it's not a good thing because of that. When you can see people, you can just literally just change the word of something, and it can be the actual same thing, and they will then probably get on Twitter and say, no, Biden's different from Donald Trump, orange man, bad, fascist, Nazi. He's not the same. It doesn't even matter what's happening down there. If you can just change one word and get them to completely shift on it, it goes to show how dumb these people are. But, Ayanna Pressley and the Democrats actually right now want to lower the voting age to 16.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. What 16-year-old do you know that doesn't have super life experience and just a great head on their shoulders, ready to make decisions for the country?
Yes, of course. Like I remember me being a 16-year-old out of here doing very bad things. And probably the last thing I should have been deciding is what direction the country should move in. That probably wasn't the best thing. It wasn't on my mind. At that age anyway. So I would have just been doing everything out of ignorance. But to be fair, 25, 30, 35-year-old people do that too. So touche, I guess, Ayanna Pressley, because it's stupid old people too.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah. Stupid comes in
It's contagious.
Yeah, stupid is not discriminatory.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's really not.
All right, really quickly before we have to go to break. So Joe Manchin, Democrat Senator Joe Manchin, you know you're in trouble if you're a Republican and you're like, well, maybe Joe Manchin will be on our side. Well, maybe Joe Manchin will be our saving grace. There was a lot of talk about removing the filibuster. He repeatedly has stated since the incoming administration has taken office that he would not vote to end the filibuster, despite a lot of pressure from his cohorts. Well, he is starting to, sort of like maybe some people, I don't know, like talking to you right now had said maybe he would, and not to put all of your faith in someone like Joe Manchin. He has started to change his rhetoric just a little teeny tiny bit. Here is Joe Manchin on the filibuster this weekend lunch.
To be clear, with 30 seconds left, you would consider making it harder to invoke the filibuster so that you just don't automatically have 60 votes that you need for any legislation?
I'd make it harder to get rid of the filibuster. I'm supporting the filibuster. I'm going to continue to support the filibuster. I think it defines who we are as a Senate. I'll make it harder to get rid of it, but it should be painful if you want to use it. You should make sure the place works to where, okay, I want to work with you.
It should be painful if you want to use it. A lot of people are saying that this is Joe Manchin signaling his openness to change. You have faith that Joe Manchin is going to toe the line?
Mm-mm.
No.
I don't have any faith in Joe Manchin. I don't have any faith in anyone in the world.
I'm like, people are like, well, Joe Manchin's really going to hold strong. And I'm like, you're really like this Joe Manchin? This is what it comes down to? Joe Manchin. That's a sad state of affairs. It really is.
No, that's seriously where we're at with people. Look, y'all know how I feel about the federal government, and I've been talking about eliminating it in its entirety for a very long time here over at the Blaze. And I think people need to start really considering these decentralization efforts, because these people are going to they're going to run the country into the ground. I mean, they have every intention on doing that. But I've always thought that it was just silly that a bunch of idiots in D.C. get to dictate what, for example, we have to do in here in Texas. It doesn't make sense.
And then not only the elected ones, but the 2.5 million unelected bureaucrats with their greedy ass bony fingers stuck in everything that are creating policy and everything else that trickles down to the average citizen and affects where we live and how we live.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's a bad deal, man.
Yeah. All right. We have got more to come. Back in a minute. Today, on International Women's Day, I am happy to present to you the new Andrew Cuomo allegations, the allegations against Andrew Cuomo. 2 more women have come forward with allegations against him. One, Anna Liss, who was a policy aide from 2013 to 2015, alleged that Cuomo harassed her to the point that she felt reduced to, quote, just a skirt. Apparently, he asked her if she had a boyfriend. He called her sweetheart. He touched her on her lower back at a reception. And once kissed her hand when she rose from her desk. The other one, Karen Hinton, said that she endured a very long, too tight, too intimate embrace from Cuomo in a dimly lit Los Angeles hotel room in December 2000. She said she was married, she pulled away, but he pulls me back for another intimate embrace. I thought at that moment it could lead to a kiss, it could lead to other things, so I just pull away again and I leave. This is feeling a lot like buyer's remorse, that there are a lot of people out there, there are a lot of reporters who are not thrilled about the way that they carried water for Andrew Cuomo when he was, killing old people in nursing homes, and now all of a sudden every single accusation they have got to blow out of proportion. And again, International Women's Day, happy day to all of you women out there. But a lot of these allegations just do not pass muster for me when we're talking about actual sexual assault allegations, actual allegations of someone who has just done depraved things. I'm continuing to be an Andrew Cuomo apologist here. This is stupid. I was kind of just an Andrew Cuomo apologist.
You kind of were, and I don't like the guy. I think he's scum. Don't get me wrong.
I do too.
I think he's a moron. I think he's scum. I think he's arrogant.
And I'm good letting him go down for this. Like, I'm happy for him to do that
takes
because
him down, I'm fine with that because he is guilty of a lot of people's deaths. In the handling and the mismanagement as governor of New York.
Well, he also has said believe all women and on that train.
He's a hypocrite in that regard. But that's sexual harassment. Some of this stuff is just, look, I'm guilty. All right, I'm just going to tell you, I'm guilty.
You heard it here.
I just throw them bones out on the yard and just let you look at them. I'm guilty. Good Lord. I touched you on the lower back earlier today, Sarah. I'm not apologizing for it. I gave you a hug.
You did give me a hug.
I gave you a hug, Sarah.
We've talked about this before, but it just kind of comes down to when we're talking about sexual harassment allegations, really what it comes down to is, is the woman attracted to you?
Yeah. Does she like it?
Yeah, does she like it? Because if she likes it, it's not sexual harassment, it's just you flirting. If she doesn't like you, then all of a sudden it's sexual harassment.
Yeah, I've never been the one to sit up here and try to minimize people's experience by any means. Sure. But in the same regards, if we're going to talk about this subject honestly, we have to got to separate like the real from the reaching. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And some of that stuff and hearing that, some of it's reaching. And look, there are a lot of opportunistic people out there that will get on any bandwagon to demonize someone. But like you mentioned, Cuomo is a criminal. Yeah. I want that to be said, and I want to stand firm on that. It's unfortunate that they won't get him for the right things. Right. But that the clear and obvious thing, like we talk about with the mismanaging in nursing homes and what have you, which is a clear and obvious error. It's not a secret. We know about it. It's factual, right? We understand this, and we don't have to do any reaching for it. But here we are, and I'm not going to defend the guy by any means. It's just that I don't want to. We can't ignore the fact that this man is responsible for a lot of deaths, and yes, he is also a hypocrite in this regard. And a lot of Democrats are, because even if you read some of the things that they are saying, it's like they have to wait till it gets out of hand before they're like, oh, well, okay, maybe he's not the best person in the world, though you were about to give him an international Emmy.
Yeah. Right.
So that was that.
All right. So again, more news on International Women's Day. Thank God someone is finally doing something about Pepe Le Pew, the skunk.
The skunk? The cartoon?
The cartoon skunk who was contributing to rape culture.
Here we go.
According to, who was it, Charles Blow. So after this essay came out, New York Times columnist said that he was perpetuating rape culture. Now all of a sudden he is cut from the new Space Jam 2 movie, which I'm going to make it a point to never watch. Chad.
I'm offended by that author's name.
Charles
Jim Blow?
Charles
James Blow, whatever it was.
Charles Blow.
Last name's Blow?
Yeah.
That's offensive to me. He's contributing to sexual innuendo culture. I mean, how far you want to take this thing?
Yeah. It's a freaking cartoon skunk.
Yeah.
Like I
Who
just
likes to flirt? He's French.
Right.
Right? Of course,
So,
my role model growing up. Yes, baby. Yes, you, my love.
It's funny.
Yeah, no, this is where it's like book burning, kind of what we're doing, what they're doing right now. And that's what happens when people become professional activists, unfortunately. I mean, I guess you can consider me an activist, and I am. I'm an advocate of liberty. But in the same respect, so when you have people that have nothing else but that, they got to find things that aren't, I don't want to say that they aren't there, but they have to go out of their way. This is, like you said, a cartoon skunk here that we're discussing here, but not even just that. It's more so that you can't say that it attributed to rape culture, because I don't know anybody that's ever been like, yeah, man, Pepe Le Pew, when he grabs that chick and she pushes him off, and usually he gets destroyed every time that he does it anyways. He gets beaten up for grabbing him. So if anything, it's showing that you might get hit over the head with something if you are acting like that. But to act like that is something to strive for. Us as little boys, when we saw that, we were like, yeah, because Space Jam was 97, so I was 7 years old. The first one that Pepe Le Pew was in. Sitting here watching Pepe Le Pew, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's exactly how I'm supposed to act when I see women that I like or I'm attracted to. Like, no, we don't act like that. And that's unfortunate, because now that means that they have to come for guys like, I don't know if you're familiar with him, Chad. Johnny Bravo was a cartoon character that was kind of acting like Pepe Le Pew in some regards. They're going to come for him next. But that's what sucks, is that they never give context. Not just that it's a cartoon. Yeah. We know that. And of course, there's a lot of outrageous stuff. I mean, Bugs Bunny used to dress in drag doing all kinds of crazy stuff. We already know that. But it's context, because you see that they're doing that with like live action stuff as well. It's like, well, that came out during that time, therefore it needs to be eliminated. And then they're like, how is this not book burning? That's what I'm like. How is this not what this is? Well, you're sitting there and just want to eliminate everything because you feel that it's problematic, so you want it to cease to exist, though it doesn't attribute to society in the way that you're claiming that it does. Like, again, I've never met anybody that says they are into doing weird stuff to women because of Pepe Le Pew. I don't think they've ever, nobody says anything like that. That's nonsense.
That's a whole new level of
kink. It's a reach. Oh, yeah.
It's a whole new level.
Pepe Le Pew told me I could.
Can you imagine the divorce decree that says, well, he took a lot of ideas from Pepe Le Pew?
So for all of you Pepe Le Pew fans, unfortunately, he will not be seen in the new Space Jam 2 movie that you will also probably not be seeing, mostly because it stars LeBron James. So there you go, right there. I'm sure you're really going to miss it. All right, we got to take a break. Back in a minute.
Pepe Le Pew.
By the way, Charles Blow, you're coming for Speedy Gonzalez, and I'm coming after you, okay? Because you will not do do anything to Speedy Gonzalez, okay? He's my guy.
He's your family.
He is my family. Thank you, Eric, for pointing that out. Yeah, he's my guy. He is my homie. Don't come for him. Okay? All right. We make sure that if you have not yet gone to the News and Why It Matters, wherever you get your audio podcasts, go there, subscribe, rate, and review the show. Make sure to give us 5 stars to make sure that other people can then find the show, watch it, listen to it, so they too can find the News and Why It Matters. Today, we have a review from Lady JSR74, who says, I want a seat at the table. I make it a point to stop what I'm doing at 5 p.m. and turn on the show. I love Sarah, and her guests are always amazing. Not an episode goes by where I don't wish I could be sitting at the table along with them. But luckily, getting to watch makes me feel like I am. Keep up the good work. Come on down, Lady JSR. Come on down. Come get a seat at the table.
Get through Glenn Beck's barricades.
Yeah, I mean, we do have security. Probably wouldn't let you through. But no, thank you so much for the 5-star review. Again, you got to go, give it 5 stars, write a review, write something nice about us, okay? Because we deserve nothing less. And again, on International Women's Day, I just want to make sure to say that as many times as I possibly can. It's International Women's Day. I need a handicap from you because I'm a woman and I need something extra, okay?
I wonder if they've told the women in like Sudan. International Women's.
I don't think they've gotten that memo. I don't think they have.